Yosemite Lakes Park in the summer of 1983 and moved out in 1991. The year that we built, it rained so much they pushed our pad in January and they were unable to start until June because it was just a swamp. And then between June and August they got it built, and I'm pretty sure it was in August that we moved into the park. And then when we decided we wanted to have our horses at home and we couldn't find something for sale inside the park, we ended up moving outside the park. We were involved in at the swimming pool. I was a certified lifeguard and water safety instructor. When we moved there, I had been working for the YMCA in Fresno, and when we moved up, I took an interest in the pool, and my children were, in '83, they were 3 and 5 at the time, and we started spending time down at the pool and met a lot of nice people there with lots of other children. I ended up lifeguarding and then helping with the swimming lessons, and then eventually ended up managing the pool, and I think it was for about 5 or 6 years. We got involved through someone at the pool with a barn, and I'd always loved horses. I had never owned one, but I always was horse crazy. And so in my 30s, it was about when I was in my 30s, I met a woman there who knew somebody who needed horses to be exercised. And so she and I set up a deal with these people, and from there both of us ended up getting our own horses and spending a lot of time at the barn and working on the trails and riding all the trails. At that time, there were only, when we first started, it was only about, I think there were about 420 homes there in the park. So it was real wide open. So we were the only home on Wild Horse Court for 8 years. And then the year that I came home and saw that someone had put up flags, I told my husband, it's time to move. We were so used to having all that space, and that was when the growth really started. So for the first 7.5 years we were there, it was really slow, not a lot of growth, some, and then by the time we moved out of the park on that street, there were like 4 homes. I mean, it just went crazy. So
what year was that?
I think it was like 1990, 89, 90, and then 91 was when we actually moved out, because we sold our home and then we lived in a couple rentals while we were building this house before we moved out of the park.
So you moved out in 91?
In 91, yes.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah, 83 to 91, yeah, we were in there. So.
What was it like, what was YLP like as a place to live through the 80s?
It was a very small and close community. You pretty much knew almost everybody. You know, everybody knew Pam Carter, who ran the store, because that was the only store in the park. We did a lot of stuff at the clubhouse. My children participated in the Vacation Bible School, and through the swimming pool we really got to know a lot of people, and then through the schools and that. It was fun. There was a lot of fun. They did a lot of fun activities. We had anything that can float derby on the lake, and that was always a lot of fun. They did that for a number of years. There was different committees that did different activities, and I got involved with the equestrian committee, and we did fundraising and horse shows, and I was a barn manager for a while, I can't remember how long it was now. It might have been for a year or two. And that was a challenge, you know, because there's a lot of different people and all those involved in equestrians that have a lot of different ideas about how things should be done. And so we worked together and trying to get it to be a community thing where everybody had some say in what was going on and the improvements. When we first started there were no arenas. There was a hot walker on the side of a hill, sort of. the barn was not in real good shape, and all the pens were big, huge, large pens, and there were very few horses there because one person would take one giant pen. So then we worked on dividing down the pens, making smaller stalls so that more people could be involved there, and worked on raising funds to do the different arenas and change out the fencing from the old white corral board fence that was probably put in when it was originated to pipe. And so we did, we just did different fundraising things and we spent a lot of time there and at the pool. So in the summer when it was hot, we were at the pool, and then the rest of the time we'd be at the barn, and we'd do both on a lot of days. Well, when we got here in the 80s, it wasn't like that, I don't think, because there were a lot of kids. There were a lot of kids. I mean, we had bus stops and, I mean, everything. And, I mean, the bus stops at the clubhouse and at the barn and different places. And maybe that's how it started, because it started in the 70s, I believe. And a lot of young families were here. And a number of people I know, still live there, 36, 40 years later. And now their grandkids are living in the area and stuff. So that wasn't my impression when we came up here. The reason why we came up was when we lived down in the Tower District, and we were gone for one night, and when we came back, somebody had robbed our house. And they had gone in through my children's bedroom window, took a piggy bank, and then took, all the normal stuff that's taken, TVs and that. And after that happened, I told my husband, I just don't feel safe here. I want to move someplace else. And he said, I just heard, he worked for the city of Fresno at the time. And so he said, I just heard about this place up towards Coarse Gold called Yosemite Lakes. And so we came up and looked around, and we were able to swap equities in our home for the equity in the property that we got. And it seemed like there were lots of children. Because we still did trick-or-treating. We could go from house to house, and so there were enough homes to do that. Eventually it got changed to where they just went to the clubhouse and had a Halloween party there, or the trunk-or-treats that they do now and stuff.
Is there, about how many people were there, you think?
Oh gosh, well, if there were 400 homes, maybe 1,000 people. If you figure 2 people per house. And,
over 5,000.
Yeah. So it was easy to get to know all the different, all the different people there. And if you were involved in anything, I mean, that was the best thing, is to have that swimming pool in the barn, and then the clubhouse had activities. I never got involved with Ladies of the Lake, but I was very aware of all the things that they did. They did have the Vacation Bible school for the kids. My husband did play some golf, but we never really got involved with the golf course. And I remember our big thing was, there was always talk about, we got to shut the barn down. Well, the barn was the only thing that was ever in the black. Everything else was in the red. The barn paid for itself. And
what amenities did they have?
They had none. I mean, basically, when I started, I think it was $15 a horse. Well, they had amenities. They had water in the barn and the stalls. And so for about I think it started originally, it was like even $5 a month, and then it went up to $15 a month per horse.
And other than they have the restaurants?
The restaurant, I don't remember, because we didn't go to the golf course a lot. So it may have been there. The golf course was there. Yes, that's always been there. The bar's been there for a long time, because that's where we would do our 50s dance. For muscular dystrophy would be in there, and so that was there. The library, then they put in the library, which was really nice. I remember going to different, health classes at the clubhouse. But back when we first moved in, the kids could swim in the lake, and now I don't think they encourage that at all. And the kids could swim. We'd take our kayaks out on it. They would go swim in the lake and then go swim in the pool. They enjoyed that a lot. But
did they have, what was the weather like then? Was the pool or the lake pretty much always filled? Was it?
Most of the time there was plenty of water in it. There were a few years, and I can't remember which years it was, that it went really, really dry. And that was sort of, because we'd been doing those water activities on the lake, and then all of a sudden we couldn't do it. And so I can't remember when it was, 86. There was a couple of years when the lakes were like totally dry. And and after having all those years with water, it was sort of disappointing to see. So now it seems like they managed to keep the water levels up, and then I have the aerating system. But now, because there's so many septic systems around, I'm assuming that's why they don't want anybody going into the water. There's a lot more ducks and geese. And around the lake itself, it looks totally different, because when we first started riding from the barn, it was like a jungle all the way around the lake. And the trail to the back didn't exist. Behind the mailboxes that goes off there, you would just come around the tennis courts, go up on the hill where the septic lines are now, and you can't do that now. But then you just go around the lake, and it was very overgrown, and it was always sort of a challenge to get through there and stuff. So that's changed quite a bit. I still, after all this time, can ride the original trails that were established, that go all the way down to the end of Long Hollow, that go up to the top of Rivas. They've changed as because we didn't know where property lines were, and as people built, then we moved the trail out to the easement where it's allowed. We have some difficulties with the trail that's directly across from the barn that goes up the hill across Yosemite Springs Parkway, because there's that spring there, and there's things in the way that make it difficult to access the green belt from the barn unless you ride on the road a lot and stuff. But now there's so many cars and stop signs, because when we first moved in, there weren't any stop signs at all. There were no stop signs, and when they put in the stop signs, that was the hardest thing to adjust to, because you were so used to driving. And I know I ran through one time, and before I realized it, and I was taking my kids to the barn to get on the bus, and the police officer, I guess I sort of rolled through it, and I was late. So he was very generous. He just reminded me, it was right when they first went in, so everybody was still struggling with remembering. You get in such that habit. But now I'm glad they're there, because it slows everybody down and makes it a lot safer.